Right, we got Verizon time was 7 o'clock. This Farmington Town Board meeting for May 12th. We had full board tonight. And first thing on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance and add Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Certainly. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good.
Yep.
Next item, approval of the minutes for April 28th.
I'll move. Second then.
Motion by Ron, second by Barbie. Corrections, changes? All in favor?
Aye.
We have privilege of the floor before our public hearing. Any comments from the residents or anybody on board? Privilege of the floor or public concerns? Okay, we'll go right directly to the public hearing.
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held by the town of Farmington on the 12th day of May 2026 at 7 p.m. at the Farmington Town Hall, 1000 County Road 8, Farmington, New York, 14425, adopting a local law creating a new chapter 77 of the Farmington Town Code for the year 2026, entitled Bicycles with Electric Assist, Electric Scooters, Go-Karts, Golf Carts, Limited Use Motorcycles, and ATVs. Any resident of the town of Farmington shall be entitled to be heard upon said proposed local law at such public hearing. Copies of said proposed local law are available for review at the town of Farmington Town Hall and on the town's website. This by resolution.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, so we had a public hearing last meeting and we left out the words ATV. So that's the new public hearing in chapter 77 proposal that's before us tonight. And at this time, anybody can speak for or against this public hearing with the town board. Just ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes first time around, and then after everybody gets a chance to comment, they can comment a second time. Anybody online want to make a comment? Okay, one more time on this public hearing. Yes, Mr.
Giving members of the board copies of my statement, I just skip over big chunks of it, but there's a few bits that I want to read verbatim. First of all, I sympathize with the town and the members of the board that they are likely getting frequent calls for action on this matter, and I certainly support their efforts to address this issue. While the problem is fairly widespread, my remarks are particularly related to use of the Audubon Trail, not so much the streets and sidewalks. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't own an e-bike. I ride the trail on a conventional bicycle. My motivation for speaking here today is, as I mentioned at the last meeting, my encounters on the trail with groups of senior ladies on e-bikes. For them, riding the e-bikes on the trail is a greatly desired opportunity to get out, get some fresh air, and socialize with their friends. In this aspect, I would regard them as typical adults. They are not part of the problem. If anything, they demonstrate the inappropriateness of both current and proposed local laws. They are not the problem. So, what exactly is the problem they're trying to address? Although I've not seen it clearly stated, the problem seems to me to be reckless, irresponsible use of non-registered motorized vehicles, primarily e-bikes, on the town's streets, sidewalks, and trails, with the overwhelming demographic of offenders being teenagers. I'm going to say probably particularly teenagers in the realm of 12 to 15, because 16-year-olds are ready for a car. They're not particularly interested in an e-bike. I've got handouts attached to the main that give you some background on synopsis of the existing laws and such. But I wanted to get to the bicycle shop scenario. Bicycle shops that sell e-bikes I've got a typical ad here from the last penny save. Place out of New York. And you can go through this and offer e-bikes of various different classes. And one of them even says it'll do 38 miles an hour. But there's nowhere in here that says they offer any kind of training or education with regard to actually using. So one would propose the scenario that a parent or grandparent with his 14-year-old in tow goes into the bicycle shop and buys him a speedy new e-bike, takes it home, gives it to the kid and says, here, go have fun. Nothing illegal about that at all. And the kid gets in trouble. So now, if instead of it's a bicycle shop, it's a gun shop. Who in his right mind would give a kid a gun without any kind of training or anything like that? But that's what we're doing with the e-bikes. The e-bikes maybe not be quite so dangerous, but they still pose a threat to life and property and injury to the child and anyone he might encounter. So anyway, I won't go through all the differences and such that I listed on the handout, but I do want to read my conclusions. With exception to changing scope to include sidewalks and streets, the new regulations are largely redundant and/or contradictory to the existing ones. Chapter 105 clearly provides for restrictions of basically all motor vehicles on the Audubon Trail, without regard to whether they're e-bikes, mini bikes, go-karts, golf carts, or snowmobiles for that matter. The new chapter 77 does not address the real problem. It has no provision for enforcement. It does not provide for any enhanced detection or consequences. No means to capture the time, location, or identity of offenders. No means to apply consequences to the most likely offenders. It specifically exempts those under 16 from any consequences. And if you look at subsection J, I guess it is of 105, where it delineates not being able to use any motor vehicles on the trail, there's a specific exemption for emergency vehicles and vehicles for persons with physical disability. So I'm thinking that pretty much any senior citizen in the town, over 60 or so, could claim a disability, physical disability, or at least an impairment or a challenge with comparison to a 14-year-old. So there may be a loophole there in the existing law, section 105, that would allow adults to use the trail with an e-bike. The chapter 77 would completely eliminate that, and that is my concern with regard to the little old ladies on e-bikes on the trail. Okay, so in summary, I see this proposed in chapter 77 as a needless restriction on responsible adults and a failure to impose any real consequences on the individual causing the issue. What can be done? I don't know, I'm not an attorney, but any attempt to really address the problem should include a reduction in restrictions on responsible adults, a requirement for new riders to receive some training in safe, lawful, and responsible use, means to detect, identify, document, report offenses and offenders, an effective means of enforcement, and actual consequences for offenders and their parents or guardian. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bolt, thank you. Giving us 3, 4, 5 pages there to look over, and we appreciate it. Anybody else comments on the public hearing for the chapter 77? Yes.
That's our Guiler Caleb Court. We live in a new construction housing community on a private road, which borders and has access to the Auburn Trail. Some of our personal and neighbor experiences witnessing the electric bikes and vehicles, driving on our private road, on the sidewalk, through our lawns, over our driveways, some driving recklessly, speeding, hopping wheelies, multiple vehicles getting tight groups. Some wear no helmets, some have helmets only, some have motocross type uniforms with helmets, pads. We've experienced some vulgar language, hand gestures, and reckless behavior at times, especially when I tell these people they're not allowed on this private property and road. These electric bikes and vehicles are driving on the trail access lane, which is a sidewalk to enter and drive on the Auburn Trail. There is evidence the Auburn Trail entrances and the trail itself have been damaged by these vehicles, including skid marks, spinning tires, and throwing gravels. We have neighbors who will not walk the trail because these vehicles after almost being hit or having to move to the side of the trail to avoid these vehicles. They happen to see them coming, they're very fast. I had a close call experience recently driving home with one of these vehicles. I was driving around the bend on a public road. Electric mini bike vehicle was moving very fast, had to swerve to avoid hitting me, riding in the middle of the road, not paying attention, no help. The variations of vehicles and individuals, along with events, keeps increasing over time. We would note the Caleb Court and the Auburn Trail access do have signs posted at the road entrance and the trail entrance, private road, residents only, no motorized vehicles allowed. We witness these electric bikes and vehicles pretty much on a daily basis on our private road and surrounding public town roads and sidewalks in our general. They're running stop signs, riding in the middle of the road, weaving around in circles, cutting off traffic, almost hitting walkers and their pets, riding in darkness, gathering. We'd also note there are major safety, legal, liability issues with these events based on experiences and information. It's only a matter of time before, unfortunately, something negative is going to happen. We're curious as to how new codes will be communicated, how they will be enforced, and what penalties are involved. Concerns are that based on experiences, these issues described will not end unless there are major penalties. I'd like to thank the town officials, the town board, and Supervisor Engelfield for addressing this major issue. We advocate for said visit.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Anybody else? Comment? Anybody one last time online? Going once, going twice? Great, we're gonna close the public hearing. Thank you, everybody. Any other public concerns to be brought in front of the town board? Okay, we're going to reports of standing committees, public works first.
Yeah, Public Works, we met right here this morning and got our updates from Water and Sewer and Highway and Parks. I'll start with the treatment plant. Lots of issues on clogging and binding issues on the north influence screen compactor. They're working on that problem. Clarifier 3 has been drained due to some tripping issues. They got some repairs on that to do. They did their first round of WET testing and that has been completed. Let's see. Got an intermittent noise on the south influence screen and they're doing some investigation on the guide rails. Found them to be severely worn. Working on repairs on that. They've been ongoing pump station maintenance, and there's dozens of different pump stations that we talked about this morning. I won't go into them all. You can read them online if you want to look at that issues. General comments for them. They televised at 29 Shooter Mills in preparation for a sanitary lateral replacement. Buckman Dune Sewer Access Road's been completed. They just got some posts and gates to put in. That's all they have left there. Let's see, they did some inspections at the Go Car Wash, tank cleaning, checking them issues out. They televised sewer piping on Limestone Lane to verify conditions of the pipe under the go. They've been doing a lot of cleanup and topsoil and seeding around town, cleaning up and seeding spots from wintertime repairs. They're working on meter replacements still. The staff is out doing some asphalt restorations on different sites, Loomis Road, Hook Road, Gateway Drive. They continue inspecting manholes. They've been investigate sewer slow drain complaint at Glen Carlin. They did a saddle repair leak at Hook Road. They did some work at the Brickyard Tank too as well. An electrical contractor was in there. They're digging a trench for the gate operation for the fence. The fence, I believe, has been completed. The water main break on Deer Run, Buckskin Drive on Mother's Day. They got 3 resolutions. We can talk about them if we need to at the time. That's probably about it for them. Highway has been out doing roadside mowing for the first trip. Their ongoing equipment maintenance as always. They've been doing some ditching around town, replacing some driveway culverts, and they flushed some clogged culvert pipes. They repaired some snowplow damage in yard. Been out trimming trees and improving sight lines at intersections. We talked about the shredding that you do every year. We also talked about a temporary easement in Sheldon Road. 1 resolution's there. We can talk about that if we need to at the time. As far as parks, they're doing the regular maintenance, field lining, mowing, cleaning mowers, working up ball fields. New soccer goals have been put up at Beaver Creek Park. They had a safety meeting with staff. New sidewalks at the lodge are now complete at Mertensia Lodge. The generators have all been serviced now, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Ron. Town operations.
Operations met this morning. 1 resolution regarding 3 with the e-bikes. Local law number 2, the moratorium on accessory structures, that was received by the state and on file. Moratorium ends October 26th, but we're working on it, and we don't expect it to go that long. We're hoping to have a new chapter update for that in the next 2 months or so, hopefully. The Farmington Meadows Incentive Zoning Project, Planning Board at their last meeting on the 6th approved with conditions the overall preliminary subdivision plat and site plan. Next step is making some amendments to the drawings, filing the new drawings to the town clerk, and the town clerk having the town's official zoning map. And then it'd be submitted to the county. The Farmington Fire Station number 2 at Hook and 96. Also the planning board's last meeting granted approvals with conditions for the special use permit, preliminary site plan, and the proposed renovations. The next step there is signing the preliminary site plan drawings, preparing final site plan, and hopefully issuing building permits soon. And on the town operations report that Ron put on the website, there's a concept drawing of a view of the lot looking at it from Hook Road towards the fire station to the east. There's a concept plan for what it should look like. Couple pending solar projects. The planning board can address those a little bit. They did have some more information come in. The Dimension Solar was rejected as they have not submitted all the necessary documentation for their review, and the Fish project is also submitting some more documentation. Solar projects take a lot of review there. Pintail Road dedication, which kind of ties into the Wood Drive and that bridge closing. The lawyers we're kind of going back and forth for the 2 different property owners regarding variances that were issued and some language on the variances. So there's going to be an application at the next ZBA to include all the buildings included in that project that would need a variance for being within the right of way. Once that is cleared up, we're hoping to get all the paperwork from the lawyers and get the dedication as soon as possible, so we can then we'll close the Wood Drive Bridge completely once the new Pintail Drive is dedicated. And we could have that as a detour for that neighborhood. Black Brook, Black Creek drainage, I'll let Hal touch on that a little bit as it affects the Ag Committee. Environmental Conservation Board met on the 26th, and they were looking over the two solar projects and also an application for a flex space on Kennard 41. The Zoning Board of Appeals has a meeting next Monday on the 18th. They're still going over the application for bridges for brain injury and the area variances for the existing buildings on Pinto Crossing to hopefully clear that up. That's it.
Great, thanks, Nate. Reports of other town officials, supervisor, as mentioned, last meeting, we approved the Wood Drive Bridge construction project. We're waiting on the paperwork from the contractor before we meet to discuss a start date. Also mentioned, last meeting, the actual completion date will be late summer of 2027. Nate just talked about the Pintail Crossing, and the zoning board meets on May 18th for that. And then we can progress, hopefully dedicate that road, maybe the end of May or first meeting in June. Parks, all baseball fields are operational, and the two soccer fields at Beaver Creek Park, Hortensia Park, and Pumpkin Hook Park are all scheduled with practices or games this year. Very, very good use of our fields. 2025 audit. Tonight we have a resolution accepting the town clerk and receiver of taxes audits. MMB found no findings that needed correction with the town clerk and the receiver of taxes. Congratulations, Michelle. Code committees. I've requested members from the planning board and zoning board and the town board to work with staff on two committees, the accessory structures code and the code changes to e-bikes. So they know who they are, and they'll get together with our staff here shortly. Ontario County, I met with the members of Ontario County Economic Development Committee, as I'm a member there. We discussed the current finances of the committee and the status of loans that we give out to commercial and industrial Ontario County businesses. Tomorrow are the county committee meetings. I chair the Government Operations and Insurance Committee at 1 o'clock. And then I'll be attending the Ways and Means Committee meeting at 3 p.m. Finance, last time we talked about sales tax. This time is mortgage tax. Our first of two payments was down 8% from last year's payment. This payment was $203,000 and some change. Overall, we still should be good, as I budgeted very conservatively on our 2026 budget. The second payment that we get is always larger than the first. And the one last thing I wanted to bring up is the Farmington Historical Preservation Commission this Thursday here, 7 o'clock. The Manchester Town Historian will have a presentation on the Manchester Roundhouse Depot. It's free and it's open to the public, so please encourage people to attend. And that's all I have. Highway.
This past week, May 7th, 8th, and 9th was the spring cleanup days at the town dump. We had highway, parks, and water and sewer staff there to man it, which was good because we served almost 300 loads more than we did last spring, on 150 or 250. Last spring we had 879 or 897 loads. This year we had 1,141. That's across the battery drop-offs, the Freon units, tires, electronics, shredding, and then the household garbage that we physically unload for everybody. The Freon units, we took in almost double what we have the previous years. Last year was 50 units. This year was 99. And then for loads that we handled and unloaded for residents, last year it was 522, this year it was 641. So it was a very good turnout, and thank goodness for the other departments helping out because it was a show. So,
The weather cooperating for a change.
yes, it only rained for about 4 hours on Friday morning, and that's it. Um, then this afternoon, there was a farmer in town that had an incident and the town road and dumped, almost 0.6 miles, so over half a mile of fertilizer on the road today, and which is about an hour after our vac truck went back to regional. So we had to contact the town of Victor Highway Department, and they sent their street sweeper out today to help us get that taken care of. We couldn't just sweep it off of the road. Doing that, we would have had to have gotten DEC involved. So, because we were able to suck it up off of the road, Water and Soil said that that was good enough, but we will be filing we have recorded all the stuff necessary, and tomorrow we will be documenting an illicit discharge that happened in the town to keep on file. So that happened today from 3:15 until 4:30,
Pretty close.
right at the end of the day. So that's what I have.
Thank you. Parks, I kind of mentioned what, permit, town clerk.
Yes, so our office has been working on records disposal. This Friday, I have an Ontario County Municipal Clerk meeting over at Town of Victor. Our guest speaker will be a representative from the Committee on Open Government. Plus, we will be discussing new legislation regarding dog licensing, which will now require towns to add a line item to renewal forms, giving applicants the option of making a contribution in support of a shelter or pound that's contracted by the municipality. And then those deposits, those funds will be put in a dedicated fund and dispersed annually to the shelter or pound we choose. As Peter mentioned, the town clerk and tax receiver audit took place and everything is good there. We are now looking at options to offer online reservations for lodge and pavilions, and also looking for dog renewal license as well. And since last meeting, I've officiated 3 marriages. That's it.
All right, thank you. Water and sewer.
Yeah, as Ron mentioned, we had asphalt restorations today on Loomis, Hook and Gateway. I actually drove all of them on my way in tonight. They look really good. Thanks to Sean and the guys that he lent to us today to give us a hand with that. We also must have had luck of the draw today and had our own situation. A driller that was working for us drilled through our water main on at the corner of Route 96 and Beaver Creek, right out in front of Finger Lakes Gaming. It's one of our larger water mains, 12-inch. So we had quite an issue. Probably a lot of the system experienced some low pressure, or from about the 9 to 10 a.m. until we were able to get the break isolated and then do a repair. There is no boil water notice. The system remained under pressure, so we avoid having to deal with any of that. Thanks to my staff for hanging in there all day and getting it done. We are inspecting areas in the southwest portion of our sewer district. We have an issue with extraneous water getting into our sewer up there, and it causes some folks to have some surcharging issues, especially during heavy rain events. We are finding some things that we can repair and hopefully make an impact on the residents that live out there in the southwest corner of Farmington. Also, as Ron mentioned, Brickyard Tank, the fencing is complete. We're just waiting on the electronics for the gate opener. Our concrete gutters and aprons will be poured this week. And then the final step, asphalt driveway is scheduled for Monday. And then we can put the wraps on that project. It's been a long time coming. Along with Brickyard Tank, we'll be meeting with our engineers tomorrow to review our water system pressure data since the tank went online. We want to do this so that we can optimize the pressure settings in the system, and again, benefit the residents with, with good quality, adequate pressure for the system. That's what I've got.
right, thank you. Building and zoning. Dean.
So I have some of our numbers from some of the stuff we were doing in April. We issued 84 permits. We completed 209 inspections and we completed 20 building safety inspections. That's all I got today.
All right, we're still working on one more code enforcement officer.
Still working on one more.
Planning board, Ed.
Certainly, next item are the items up are Farmington Meadows and the volunteer fire department where we're gonna close those public hearings, because I didn't close them the last time, when we should have. We got the Bellis, final site plan amendment to discuss, the secret part of that. We did have the fish solar, project, we did declare it complete and ready for public hearing and the rest. We did have a number of residents, at the meeting. I let them speak because they were there, but also told them that it's great that they spoke, but none of what they said would be in the public record on this project until we open a public hearing on it. So hopefully they'll be back with their issues and concerns for the public hearing. We'll also help them to understand the process and how we do it, and that we have done this before. And so we think it'll be a relatively smooth project. We've got like 6 inches worth of documentation provided by the applicant, so we certainly got enough reading material to do. With that, we also have a determination of completeness for the North American Sales Rental Flex Space on 220. That's pretty much it.
All right, Ed.
Yep.
Thank you. Ron, Director of Planning and Development.
Yeah, the town ops report has been posted on the website, distributed to those that are interested in it. And I also attended today the Ontario County Access Management Complete Streets and Resiliency Plan that is underway. There's going to be a public information meeting at several locations across the county here in June. And I'll get the information up on the website, how to contact and learn about these 304 sections of county roads that they've analyzed and determined safety issues with and accessibility for pedestrians and even horse and buggies. That's it.
Great, thanks. Bill, town engineers.
Yep, a few new items. We're working to prepare a bid for a project on Limestone Lane, drainage, potentially water. We've helped facilitate some wetland delineation for the Farmington Park maintenance building planning. And I think that's been completed here in the last couple of days. They might have a little bit more to do. There also did wetland delineation for the pavilion at Mertensia Park. So we'll have some feedback for everybody once we get the official reports back on that. Progressing for the sewer and water district boundary update and County Road 8 water main replacement design in progress. So.
Any questions for Bill? Assessor is not here tonight, but she was working earlier this evening. The Board of Assessment Review is Tuesday, May 26th, for anybody that wants to read their assessment. We have a new historian, Aaron O'Brien, and started May 1st. And we'll be coordinating with her for some scheduled hours here for the residents that want to meet with her. Recreation, last night, tonight, and tomorrow night is the summer rec sign up already. That's where Mark Kane is, our recreation director. He sent me an email today. Obviously that the recreation registration began this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They've done their recreation interviews, hiring, and they're complete for their staff, summer rec. And they have a scheduled meeting with the summer rec employees on June 6th. They're also beginning to finalize the vendors for July 3rd fireworks celebration here at the town park. And we have a new band this year, and it's Shades Gray. And that's it, for recognition. Helen, yeah, me, ag, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Hard for me to say.
All right, quick update on the Black Brook, Black Creek drainage study. There were 6 proposals, in response to the RFP from engineering firms. They were ranked on a scorecard by the advisory committee, which includes Ron Yearney, Ron Brand, and myself. We then interviewed 3 of those firms and selected one to recommend to the county board of supervisors. So it's good to see that.
Yep.
Some of the tasks that will occur, first of all, they're going to review present data and hold stakeholder meetings. Then there's going to be hydrologic modeling, which is above my pay grade. Trying to predict what happens during storm events and so on. There will be boots on the ground stream corridor assessment, and then they will formulate recommendations, and eventually there will be a final report. Couple of things. The stakeholder meetings will occur very early in the process. There's not a timeline yet, but the outfit the firm that's going to do this wants the stakeholder meetings before they head out into the field. So my concern is that we get as much involvement as we can. I mean, I can lean on the ag committee a little bit because we're somewhat represent major dam holders. But anything we can do from the board standpoint, I don't know the timing of the next newsletter. Can that even work or not? Might be too late.
Probably not.
It's probably not. Maybe social media. I don't know. I'm not good at that, but I really feel strongly that we need to reach out and get as much stakeholder turnout as we can early, because recommendations are going to roll out of this, and the fewer people we have saying, well, we didn't know about it, or we didn't have input. I would love to see us avoid that if we could.
Sure.
Another component of this is what we're calling the stream corridor assessment, which is actually boots on the ground. The firm that we recommended actually thinks they're going to do it by canoe. I remain somewhat skeptical based on my knowledge of these 2 estuaries. Yeah, I think Ron shares me.
He's chuckling.
Ron said he's gonna be in a canoe.
Black Brook and to a large extent Black Creek are wetlands with a little channel running through. Access is going to be a challenge, I think, for these people, other than at road crossings. And it's my view that if you only assess these streams at road crossings, you're not going to get a very good view of what's actually going on. So we're going to need the cooperation of landowners for these people to get access to look at the stream. I mean, some of the proposals talk about every 1,000 feet assessing the width of the bank and the depth and the ground cover, everything. So we're going to need to work at getting cooperation from landowners, from input and allowing access. Those are 2 critical things on my mind as we go forward through this.
Sure. 10 years ago, I had a conversation with now Assemblyman Jeff Gallahan, but he was the Manchester town supervisor. And I told him this is coming, that we got to fix that drainage because we've lost farmland here because of blockages between here and Manchester, and then Manchester, it goes into Wayne County. That, it all needs to be looked at. So finally, Ontario County was able to get a grant. Some of the towns, including Farmington, we put money up front to help with that study. And so it's nice to see it take off.
No, I think you hit it on the the nail on the head. We will try to get as much notice out on the website in the bi-weekly town ops reports and so, as you said, social media.
Word of mouth is good.
Yeah. It's one of these things that it's taken a long time to get to this point, and then all of a sudden they're gonna wanna start immediately,
Very fast.
and it'll be a challenge.
Thank you, Al. Appreciate it. Finance, I already talked about, the mortgage tax. Next thing on the agenda, communications are on file. Reports and minutes are on file. And we'll go to resolutions. First one's a resolution authorizing the adoption of local law number 3 of 2026, amended in the April 28th meeting by the town board resolution 176, 2026. Creating a new chapter 77 of the Farmington Town Code entitled e-bikes, e-scooters, all-terrain vehicles, go-karts, golf carts, and limited use motorcycle regulation, directing the filing with the New York State Department of State, Division of Corporation, State Records, and Uniform Commercial Code. First, just let me say, the comments we got last week, we had our town attorney here, we had Lieutenant Kessel, who's the road patrol lieutenant from Ontario County Sheriff's Department, was here last night. Both of them had looked at this code prior to last Tuesday's meeting. And the one thing we left out was the word ATVs. So that's why it was revised for tonight. Since then, we've gotten guidance from our attorney. Hey, look at chapter 155, look at chapter 101. Maybe take some of that stuff out of those and put in 177, or put 77 in 101 or 155. So we've had some discussion this morning in Public Works. I wasn't able to attend town operations. But I did reach out to everybody today and said, hey, let's put a couple committees together, one for the accessory structures, one for e-bikes. And, you know, let's go back to the drawing board, and appreciate the comments that were here tonight also that will be included in the decision making. I guess I just started on this 10 for any comments before we.
Yeah. First, I just want to say thank you to the residents for showing up and speaking on this issue. This is one that, you know, I initially brought to the board because there are concerns with e-bikes. But I think in this current iteration of how the chapter 77 is written, it's too broad and has been discussed a little too hastily. I think we need to take some of the comments that have been given to us into consideration. Because I don't think the e-bikes with, you know, the pedal assisted e-bikes are the issue. I don't even know if the class 1, 2, or 3 e-bikes are the issue. I think there's a lot of electric motorcycles out right now, electric dirt bikes, that are being passed as e-bikes that aren't even, that wouldn't even fall under the definition of an e-bicycle. I think, you know, the reason to have these discussions is to make, you know, make the public safer. And I can't necessarily support this draft as it's written right now, because I don't think, you know, as Mr. Bolt said, it really accomplishes that.
Yeah, I agree. We need to do more work here. Definitely. So we cover all of these.
Ontario County Sheriff's on social media the last couple of days put a great post out. So the problem that I see in town is the kids under 16 have these e-bikes, and they're not supposed to have them at all. It's 16 and over. So we'll need to no matter what we pass, we're gonna need to do a lot of conversation with the residents. What's allowed, what's not allowed, and get the younger kids out of the business with the e-bikes. The other thing is class 3, mentioned is not allowed at all upstate. It's only allowed in New York City. So if the vendors are selling class 3 bikes in Newark, they shouldn't be. They're not allowed upstate at all. 16 and over are supposed to have a helmet. Riders on one, and they're supposed to have a helmet. There's a lot of things, and it's gonna take no matter what we pass, it's gonna take a lot of public education. And Victor's on board with that too, because they're seeing the same thing. Monday nights ago, we had a parks guy sitting at Retention Park because we just painted some fresh concrete earlier in the day, and you wanted to make sure nobody rode on top of it or the dogs, put increases into brand new concrete. While they were there, they saw 15 e-bikes come down the Auburn Trail, some of them from Victor, some of them from Farmington, and go up and down Retention Road, which is 40 miles an hour. They're not even supposed to be on Retention Road. So, we got a problem that going to take some time to fix it. Nate?
Yeah, I think we also have to understand like the limit of the town board's ability to enact regulations and enforce them. I understand a lot of the issues that you're having on Caleb Court. We can't enact regulations about your private property. That's a totally different issue. You have to, unfortunately, post your property to enforce trespassing regulations. That's separate. That's not something the town board can do. We're just trying to do the best we can to fix the issues on the town-owned property, the parks and the trails. We're going to look at it more, not giving up on it, but we obviously have some more research to do. Again, there has to be something that we can do with the kids. Legally speaking, there's almost nothing you can do with kids under the age of 18. So, whether the parents can be held responsible for certain things they do, that's kind of the only way you can get to them is have something in there where the parents are going to be responsible for what they do. If they damage property, parents can be civilly liable for damages that kids do. That's already kind of civil law and things that exist. We're just trying to do the best we can to fix the problems in the parks and the trails.
I want to thank everybody who was here last time and tonight too. It was nice to actually have a public hearing and where there was some public. I also think that as it is, the way things are, it needs some more work. I also think public outreach is going to be a huge component of whatever we try and do to try and make sure people know even just the New York State law, because people just don't know the law. They don't know that their 12-year-old is not supposed to be riding on an e-bike. I look forward to seeing what we come up with, and I also look forward to hopefully cleaning up our town code a little bit, because we do have some overlap with 105 and 155, I believe it is. So hopefully we can get all that accomplished relatively soon.
Thank you. Staff, any questions, comments?
Is there, when exactly is the next time that the news,
Sorry, can you speak up?
when exactly is the next time that the town newsletter gets published?
I don't have a date, but it's normally in June.
Is there a way to communicate the state law on age restriction for e-bike in the newsletter that gets mailed to the
Probably
town?
the next 3 newsletters.
Or
I-
4 or 5, whatever it is.
Because it goes into each house, so,
Yeah,
Oh,
it goes
I
to each
know.
house and every business. Good point. All right, so we have this first resolution, so I need a first and a second, and then my recommendation is that we pull it down. Ready? Second by Ron. Any other comments, questions? All in favor? Yay. And nays?
Nays.
Resolution did not pass. Thank you. Number two, confirm the resolution authorizing the highway superintendent to sign a right-of-way contract with State, New York State for Route 332, it's mowing contract. My Nate, second by Ron. Any comments, questions there? An annual contract, all in favor?
Aye.
Three is a resolution appointing James Gray as a member of the Agriculture Advisory Committee effective May 13th, with a term ending December 31st, 2028.
Second.
Which my Omri, my Matt. Any questions there? And I believe they still have 2 vacancies. All in favor?
Aye.
Board's resolutions of successful completion of probationary period for water and sewer employee Russ Madera, effective with payroll 11, with a wage increase of $1 per hour.
Second.
Ron, second by Nate. Questions, comments? In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Resolution 5, authorizing the acceptance of the monthly report of the supervisor for April 2026. Motion by Nate, second by Omri. All in favor? Aye. 6 is confirming resolution authorizing the confidential secretary to electronically sign a 3-year file-bound document management agreement. Cost not to exceed $16,621.50 per year for a 3-year period.
Second.
Commissioner Ryan. And again, this money is spread out over the general fund, highway and water and sewer fund. All in favor? Aye. 17 is a resolution, 7 is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of a temporary easement over a portion of property located at 884 Sheldon Road.
So moved.
Second.
Matt, second by Nate. And this is to repair a drainage culvert. All in favor? Aye. 8's resolution accepting the final report of Megalomets Bar for the town clerk receiver of taxes for 2025 year-end audit.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Omri, second by Ron. Any questions there? All in favor? Aye. Raise your hand again. Michelle? 9 is resolution authorizing the water and sewer superintendent to purchase Hymax couplings and pipe at a cost not to exceed $8,150.
Second.
Motion by Nate, second by Matt. Did go out and get 3 quotes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the resolution authorizing the water and sewer superintendent to purchase parts to rebuild the compactor at the wastewater treatment plant at a cost not to exceed $8,199.30 plus any additional shipping fees.
Yeah.
Motion by Rollins, Aubrey, any questions on that? It was discussed in court this morning. All in favor? 11 is a resolution authorizing the town supervisor to sign the supplemental agreement 1 with Fisher Associates with the Wood Drive Bridge Replacement Project.
So moved.
Matt, second by Nate. Again, this gets into the construction inspection portion with Fisher Associates. All in favor? Aye. 12 is an abstract number 9 to pay the bills. General fund, $85,444.95. Highway fund, $30,930.92. Water tank repair, $3,358.50. Wood Drive capital project, $2,163.62. Storm drainage, $145.84. Lighting district, $98.74. Sewer district, $72,895.82. Water district, $89,989.55. Payroll deductions, $254.57. For total abstract pay the bills, $285, $282.51. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion by Nate, second by Ron. Any questions, any abstentions? All in favor? And just recently, we listed the top three vendors, so $19,280 to the New York State Comptroller for port funds, $17,011.14 buying road rock salt. This year's price versus the fall price, and $16,621 for ins. Next thing I have is any objection. We have one resolution for waiver of the rule. All right, hearing none, this is a resolution authorizing the creation of 5 new MEO positions.
Second.
Commissioner Ron, second by Nate. You needed one for Parks Department, but I told the secretary just go and put 5 with the county approval on it. And then we're good in the future, whether we hire parks or water and sewer or highway people in the MEO position over and above what we already have. Questions?
So are we planning on hiring 5 more people or?
No, they're sitting there. It's like we got clerk typist positions, finance clerk positions. They're all sit there that the county has authorized us to fill, but we don't use them unless we need them. And in this case, because one of the parks employees, which are all in light MEOs, has a CDL now, we want to get them to the pay scale of an MEO, just like they're in the highway department. We ran out of positions.
Oh, okay.
So instead of just creating one, let's create 5, because there's potential for more people in the parks department to get a CDL. And there's sometimes applicants for water and sewer don't qualify as a WWMA, but they might qualify as an MEO. So we can hire them there, train them, and then move them to a WWMA position.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that takes care of the resolution. We've got one item discussion. Allison Wood request to waive a late fee. Are you Allison by any chance or no? Okay. She had called, she missed the payment schedule, but later in the conversation, she admitted that she got the bill and lost it. And then when I told her, if you sign up, email blast, you get 2 email warnings that the bill is up there and ready, you can actually download the bill, either pay it online or come to the town clerk's office. Pay it. My recommendation is the same as passes. No, thank you. We don't have an executive session tonight. Just prior to adjournment, our next public works and town operations meetings are on Tuesday, May 26th. Next town board meeting is also that night at 7 o'clock. I want to plug in the Manchester Roundhouse this Thursday, one more time, here in this room for 7 o'clock for discussion on that. And anything else online? Any questions online or in the room? Any other concerns or comments? Yes, John.
I was wondering if at the end of the next town board meeting, I can be part of an executive session.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep, just coordinate that with Marcy and I.
I didn't know how that happened.
Ken. All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion made. All right, all in favor? Aye, all right, 7:59 PM. Thank you.